As a young citizen of India, armed with technology, knowledge, and love for my nation, with a vision of transforming India into a developed nation, I'm joining Shobhit University. What about you?
Good morning to all the participants from India and abroad, and our chief guest today, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi, Shobhit Institute of Engineering and Technology, Meerut, deemed to be university, and its centers of excellence, Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Application, CIDSA, and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application, CITSA, welcome our guest speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi, a distinguished international development economist. The participants from India and abroad attending this webinar for this international webinar series on open source digital technologies towards self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, 15th December 2020. Under this international webinar series, these two centers of excellence have organized 12 webinars so far, namely Open Technologies to Provision Simple and Economical IT Infrastructure. Second, a roadmap for students using free and open source software and reaching goals of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Third, open source software and industrial IoTs for SMEs. Fourth, free and open source software adoption, oblique business models. Fifth, open data platform for smart digital government. Sixth, technology imperatives, make in India for self-reliance. Seventh, edge artificial intelligence. And eighth, data governance for self-reliant India. Ninth, digital India, transforming governance and society. 10th, India's email service, citizen at indiamail.com in 22 constitutionally recognized languages. 11th, ecosystem architecture for digital transformation. 12th, education system, cyber critical infrastructure. Today is the 13th edition of this very important webinar. Today we'll have the talk by an eminent and distinguished international development economist of the country, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi, on the topic, Seizing Opportunities in Open Innovation and Value Creation Network in the Digital World for Self-Reliant Economy. Technology is the sum of techniques, skills, methods, and processes used in the production of goods or services or in the accomplishment of objectives such as scientific investigation. Today, in the webinar series, the topic in the webinar series is a growing list: technology imperatives, open systems, open infrastructure, open source software for open infrastructure, open hardware for open infrastructure, open data platform, open innovation, value creation networks, human resources development, startups in open technology, open society, industry 4.0, edge computing, edge artificial intelligence, data governance, deriving big value from big data analytics, digital India, transforming governance and society, India email service, citizen at india.com, open digital ecosystems, ODE, cyber critical infrastructure, dark data, dark cloud, dark web, dark net, etc. Seizing opportunities in open innovation and value creation network in the digital world or self-reliant economy. please see the keywords which I would like to underline in the topic which our chief guest today given us. Seizing opportunities. Two keywords: open innovation, value creation networks, digital world, self-reliant economy. These 5 underlined objectives are very important. Seizing opportunities, open innovation, value creation network, digital world, and self-reliant economy. Atmanirbhar Bharat, Modi's 5 I's to make India self-reliant economy. Which are they? Intent, inclusion, investment, infrastructure, and innovation. And based on 5 pillars, namely economy, which needs to be quantum jump and not incremental. Infrastructure, one that represents modern India. System, 21st century technology driven. Vibrant demography, source of energy for self-reliant India. And demand, whereby the strength of our demand and supply chain should be utilized to full capacity. This mission was announced on 15th May 2020 through a special and comprehensive economic package of rupees 20 lakh crore that accounts for 10% of India's GDP to bring the economy back on track. He also mentioned vocal for local to make it global, a demand-based economic system which is self-producing and self-consuming. The reforms announced have been systematic, planned, integrated, interconnected, and futuristic for creating strong enterprises, generating employment, and robust supply chain. This is our intent. Digital world, the rise of platform economy. The applications of big data, new algorithms, and cloud computing is changing the nature of work and the structure of the economy. Platform economy is a term that refers to the current transition that most of valuable companies in the world are making from mainly offering products to mainly offering platforms. The evolving digital economy is closely associated with several frontier technologies and fueled by data. The technologies are blockchain, data analytics, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, Internet of Things, automation and robotics, and cloud computing. The transition from a product-based economy to a platform economy will be complete when the majority of manufacturers master the following: the incorporation of digital twins into their products and processes, which allow them to gather and analyze connected data that allow them to fully optimize how they work. And when companies offer digital services rather than products via a pervasive computing Internet of Things platform that allows for the gathering and analysis of large amounts of data, build a precise virtual model of a product or production life cycle and their assets. Platform economy is economic and social activity facilitated by digital platforms. It is a tendency for commerce to increasingly moving towards and favor digital platform business models. And this platform economy provides us an opportunity for SMEs and startups. The rise of platform economy is one reason development business leaders should be looking hard at in the post-COVID recovery period, matching the skills of workers to the needs of the user. It has the potential to streamline business processes for employers, empower employees, and hugely boost the consumer experience if it is implemented wisely. As the platform economy evolves, there are both new opportunities as well as new challenges that arise with heightened complexity. Big companies are struggling with if and how to leverage digital platform and ecosystem models for their industries. While the gig economy has been talked about for years, The rise of the economy through digital platform is relatively new. Companies like Apple, Google, Amazon, Alibaba has used the model to grow exponentially and grab significant market share from the established firms. A digital platform economy is emerging. Open innovation versus closed innovation. The main difference between open and closed innovation lies in the way the innovation comes about. Companies, organizations engaging in closed innovation carry out work in a self-contained innovative environment, while those using open innovation methods rely on external knowledge sources for their innovation management strategies. Open innovation seeks the best wherever it is, knowledge aware import and export to improve and accelerate its own innovation. It promotes the exchange of idea and experience beyond the limits of company. Of course, there are open innovation challenges, namely strategic challenges, or operational and structural challenges, legal challenges, and cultural challenges. Digital platforms and value creation. Value creating system can be defined as a set of activities creating value for customers. These activities are carried out using a set of human, tangible, and intangible resources. They are linked by flow of material, information, financial resources, and influence. Two emerging and related forces are increasingly driving value creation in the digital economy, namely with regard to digital data and the digital platforms. From value chain to value network, on one hand, value chain concept has been developed in order to reach new fields, while on the other hand, new concept of value network has been appeared and seems to be more suitable in respect of original value chain concept for designing and analyzing businesses in the increasingly complex world of today. While when analyzing the various papers, 6 key concepts emerged that guided this evolution from value chain to value network: sustainability, globalization, collaboration, intangible assets, flexibility, and agility. Value network can be understood through the following questions. What does value chain, value network, and value creation mean? What elements describe value creating networks? How can value creating networks can be modeled and analyzed? We talked about digital data and digital platform, but there is another chapter called the dark data. Dark data is a data which is acquired through various computer network operations, but not used in any manner to derive insights or for decision making. This is a very important component for open innovation. With respect to platform economy, International Telecommunication Union, through its thematic report in 2019, talks about digital transformation and the role of enterprise architecture. A digital platform is a result of enterprise architecture. It is a repository of business, data, application, technology components, reusable building blocks, and distinct interfaces that allow for rapid design, development, deployment, and delivery of digital services. Digital ecosystems are essential for digital transformation in the digital world. Now, let us turn to the address on seizing opportunities in open innovation and value creation network. In the digital world for self-reliant economy by Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi, our guest speaker today. This topic will motivate and galvanize the participants watching over telecast through facebook.com/Sobit University India or youtube.com/Sobit University in. Let me introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi, to the participants of this seminar. Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi is a sustainable development expert with over 30 years of experience in the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, Vienna, in Austria, where he served in various capacities and eventually retired as the principal advisor to the Director General of UNIDO. Born of through Vinanchiarachi and Thrumadi Mariyal Vinanchiarachi at the southern tip of India, Kanyakumari, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi reached the zenith of his professional glory in the United Nations by a tint of hard work and total dedication. Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi has to his credit several degrees with distinction. In his doctoral thesis on the East Asian model of development, Dr. Jebamalai partly predicted the East Asian financial crisis then. His research studies, United Nations technical reports, books, and journal articles lend credence to his power of analysis of issues and options with practical insight and foresight for fostering economically efficient, ecologically friendly, and socially desirable pattern of industrial development. His contribution to eradicating poverty in 147 remote villages in the conflict affected Sudan is highly commended by donors and international organizations as the best model for post-conflict recovery and development in terms of sensitization, target beneficiaries, local empowerment, tangible impact, and sustainability. He has authored several journal articles, books, reports, highlighting the changing patterns of sustainable development with a focus on economic efficiency, ecological compliance, and social inclusion. His recent books include Myths and Realities of East Asian Model of Development, India's Time, Rethinking Development Realities, Intervene to Industrialize, The Poverty of Economic Thinking. A book on his personal life penned by him is titled In Joy and Sorrow. The book titled Ethics in Politics, Then and Now was published in November 2020. His forthcoming book is on the resilience of Indian economy. Dr. Jebamalai won several awards. Gold medal from St. Joseph College, Trichy, for being the best outgoing student of MA Economics in 1969. The UNIDO Director General Award for Outstanding Performance. Lifetime Achievement Award by various organizations. Dynamic Indian of the Millennium by KG Foundation, Chennai 2016. And the Professional Excellence Award by Auckland-based Indo-New Zealand Business Association in 2018. Sorry. Currently, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi is associating himself with the educational institution, giving motivation lectures for the students, organizing reskilling programs for teachers, and disseminating knowledge on the new education policy of the Government of India. Dr. Vinanchiarachi has, to his credit, received a lot of appreciation for his extraordinary performance at the international level and for his using his globally accumulated knowledge and experience for fostering and transformation of India through pertinent institution and development-minded stakeholders with a profound sense of humility and dignity. This is what the founder of the Knowledge for Development Partnership and the CEO of KMA Knowledge Management Associates Austria says. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi is a thought-provoking writer, speaker on global development issues and options. His wisdom enriches people around the globe. Readers of this book, that is The Ethics in Politics and Then and Now by Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi, will profit from his decades of experience and deep insights into the mechanism of economic, social, and spiritual development. Reconnecting ethics and economics is a must, and the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations give a great and good orientation on the development path, but ethics includes more. Jebamalai describes well that resources without knowledge means nothing, but knowledge without ethics is the worst. It is dangerous. The call for action in this book encourages us to stand up against ignorance and corruptions. Honorable Andres Bradner, founder of the Knowledge for Development Partnership. Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi is an intellectual storehouse of knowledge. We welcome, on behalf of the Honorable Chancellor of the Soviet Institute of Engineering and Technology, Dimtum University, and Soviet University Gango, and Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Soviet Institute of Engineering and Technology, and behalf of faculties of the university, and my behalf, as a Professor Emeritus and Chairman of the Center of Excellence for Informatics Development Solutions and Application and Center for Industries 4.0 Technology Solution Application, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi. It was our pleasure to have you today on this international webinar series on open source digital technology towards self-reliant India. Atmanirbhar Bharat. Over to you for your address, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi.
Thank you, Professor Madaswamy, for your kind words of appreciation. I am overwhelmed. I feel honored by the kind invitation from one of the reputed universities of India. I would like to recognize the great contribution made by the co-founder and chancellor, Dr. Kuvar Segar Vijayendra. It appears that his grandfather started a small school and now the institution is blossomed into a big university, making indelible impact on education. It is said that vision without action is a daydream and action without vision is a nightmare. In order to achieve something, you need a unique blend of both vision and action. His grandfather had that. I am happy that the children are sustaining that vision and mission. I would also recognize the Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Amar Dark. Do I pronounce his name properly? I believe I pronounce it properly. For giving me this rare opportunity to be part of this show. My good friend, Professor Moni, told me that I could speak as long as I want to speak. I said 1 hour. He said maybe 1.5 hours. He said even 2 hours. Don't get frightened. Don't get frightened. You know. I will try to because I have to be very careful. According to an educational psychologist, one cannot listen to another person for more than 20 minutes. I am neither ignorant nor unaware of that. I will try to make it as interesting as possible because some friends had very bad experience. A friend of mine invited by an American university was requested to speak only for 20 minutes and he exceeded the limit. And one guy sitting in the front row suddenly got up, picked up his gun from the pocket and holding the gun in his hand, he was going around the hall. Then the speaker stopped speaking and he just looked at the man and said, I am delivering a speech. You are going around the hall, holding the gun in your hand. What are you trying to do? He said, you go ahead, you continue. I am looking for the guy who invited you to speak. So I don't want my friends to become very unpopular because of very long, boring speeches. I will try to make it interesting. Now, let me now go to my PowerPoint presentation. It is titled Seizing Opportunities in Open Innovation and Value Creation Network in the Digital World for Self-Reliant Economy. To be very honest, I should have added 2 more words to the very long title, making it longer than the way it appears now. I should have definitely added facing challenges and seizing opportunities, because we are all exposed to formidable challenges triggered by the ramifications of COVID-19. So when you look at the history of economic development across countries and continents, for decades, even for centuries, you will realize that each challenge served as an opportunity. Each challenge served as an opportunity. Our personal and professional response to convert challenges into opportunities and opportunities into sustainable sources of wealth creation is a discovery process. Great leaders and great economists, great engineers discovered the process using knowledge as a source and innovation as a force. Several countries which plunged into deep recession and depression in the past, they all recovered. Look at the Great Depression of 1930s, the oil shock, and the East Asian financial crisis, then 2009 financial crisis. Every time we recovered and we did much better than ever before. So crisis is an opportunity. Each challenge is an opportunity. So we have to discover the process of recovering from that and further doing better than before. So we are going to discover the process of facing challenges and seizing opportunities now. Let me start with the principal contours and tenets of achieving self-reliant India. I'm happy that Professor Moni made a reference to our Honorable Prime Minister's vision and mission on this. He just coined this phrase, vocal for local to make it global. Many think that when you say vocal for local, at the same time offer a series of fiscal and non-fiscal incentives to attract foreign direct investment, why are we inviting foreign direct investment? Many may ask, they are totally wrong. You benefit from that. It is important that we establish our link with dynamic sources of growth, which are normally across the border, which come from foreign direct investment. And then you liberate your resources with those dynamic sources of growth, and then try to invent something. In the process of liberating, you try to invent something, learn something. First you learn and then invent something that befits the country's specific context. This is for vocal for local. In that process, you come out with products of your own brand. The best example to illustrate, to explain this particular slogan, vocal for local to make it global, is what was performed by Tata Automobiles. As you know, the automobile market in India for decades was just reserved for two car producers, Fiat and Ambassador. In a huge market with more than 1 billion people, and two car producers were just given the entire global market, and we were restricting imports. And then came the waves of liberalization in the early 1990s, and they exposed the two car producers to competitive pressures for efficiency gains. They could not survive. They were off the road, they disappeared. And within a year, there was a proliferation of Indian-made foreign cars. So we first established the link, we started leveraging with them. Tata company, automobile company, leveraged with the external sources of growth, which came through foreign direct investment. And within 3 years, the company came out with a 100% indigenous car of world class, Tata Indiga. This is the brand we made. This is precisely what is meant by vocal for local to make it global. So they started penetrating external markets. Tata Indiga was exported to Eastern Europe and Africa. Africa turned out to be a coveted market for the Tata Indiga. This is precisely, this example will lend credence to the so-called vocal for local and make it global. So in the process of learning from external sources of dynamic sources of growth, you try to come out with a brand of your own, which will penetrate the global market. Then let us now reflect on, before I go to the next slide, the contours and tenets spelled out by Honorable Prime Minister. He talks about economy, infrastructure, technology-driven, demography, and demand. Very, very important pillars. Let me just reflect on these pillars in the light of development experience across countries and continents. When we talk about Indian economy, the growth of Indian economy, I would call it elephant walk. A huge elephant makes slow steps. Apart from intermittent growth, we never reached double-digit growth rate, around 8.5, something like that, intermittent high growth. When you look at the overall performance in terms of growth, it is definitely far below the potential of the country. It is not proportionate to the potential. India is endowed with a huge reservoir of natural and human resources. Apart from oil, we have everything. But the growth was not proportionate to that. And if you look at the history of developed countries, newly industrializing countries, and emerging countries, you will realize that the so-called high rate of growth, double-digit growth, triggered structural transformation within the economy and within manufacturing. This is very important, very, very important. As a country edges into a high rate of growth, the contribution of manufacturing and related services to GDP and employment would increase, and that of agriculture will decline. There will be a dramatic structural transformation. So if this type of transformation is not taking place, you will not grow and you will not spread the benefits of growth. If you fail to spread the benefits of growth, there will be growth without development. Development means you grow, accelerate a high pace of economic expansion, and spread the benefits of growth. So if you look at the history of developed countries, newly industrializing countries, and emerging economies, this type of structural transformation did take place. And look at Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, even Mauritius. They are all super exporters of garments. They have been doing extremely well as super exporters of labor-intensive garments. But the type of structural transformation which took place in the first and second generations of newly industrializing countries did not take place in these countries. That's why there is no dramatic shift from the traditional ways of doing it. Then infrastructure. Let me give you one example. Look at the flow of foreign direct investment. If you look at the flow of foreign direct investment, a large part of foreign direct investment goes to locations, not countries. I will not name countries. Dynamic locations, dynamic industrial locations, which encompass the key determinants of attracting foreign direct investment. Number one, very strong infrastructural base and utility services, enhanced skills and capabilities to use modern technology and to commercialize new knowledge, and an enabling policy environment coupled with the institutional support services and business services. These are all the key ingredients. If you just announce tax holidays and fiscal incentives, nobody will come. I cannot think of a country which does not announce a tax holiday for foreign direct investment. But investment is not flowing there. Investment is actually flowing to selected locations. I would say 28 selected locations across countries and 80% of the investment is going only to selected locations, which encompass all the key determinants of attracting foreign direct investment. It's important to realize that. So if you just announce a tax holiday, investors will not come. Everybody announces tax holiday. Announcing tax holidays and remaining idle on the creation of infrastructural base will not bring foreign direct investment. So it's very, very critical. And we are all seeing determined effort on the part of the government to create a very strong infrastructural base. So, during the Stone Age, people were living with the primitive conditions and they paved just 1 feet way to go from one place to another place. When the 1 feet way is converted into 4-lane highway, 4-lane or 8-lane highway, this is development. That is already taking place. I am very happy that there is a determined effort on the part of the government to create a very strong infrastructural base. Then come to technology driven. Technology is very, very important. You ask simple questions too. Many complex issues can be easily understood by asking simple questions. What drives world trade and why some countries are doing better than others? World trade is today driven by medium, high tech and sophisticated products, accounting for nearly 78% of global exports in global manufacturing exports and 76% of global value added. If this is the global reality, that means I said medium, high tech and sophisticated products account for a lion's share of global manufacturing value added and global manufacturing and trade. If this is the global reality, the question is, you want to be part of it or you want to be out of context? If you want to be part of it, just opt for it. There is no other solution, no other salvation. If you look at the share of these medium, high-tech and sophisticated products in manufactured exports and manufacturing value added in newly industrializing countries and first and second generations of newly industrializing countries like Republic of Korea, Taiwan province of China, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, they account for a large share of it. And when you take the global average and compare India with that, in terms of manufacturing value added, our performance is not bad, to be honest. These products account for nearly 40%. Of course, far below the global average, global average. But in terms of exports, the share of these products in our exports, very disappointing, around 20%. This means at the export front, we are not performing well, and our performance is not akin to the global trade reality. Then demography. And here I would like to talk about the functional literacy rate. Many states are very happy, particularly I can cite the example of Kerala. They are very happy that they enjoy 100% literacy. What is important is functional literacy. Functional literacy rate refers to the percentage of literates imbued with enhanced adaptive capabilities and skills to use modern technology and to commercialize new knowledge. If the functional literacy rate is very high, naturally they participate effectively in that. That's why many students coming out of schools and the universities and colleges remain in the state of joblessness because their functional literacy rate is very low. If at all they get a job, on day one they are not operational. They are relevant in any company or any institution only after having undergone 6-month training program. The software companies go to campuses, recruit students irrespective of the subject they learn. Chemical engineers, automobile engineers, and mechanical engineers, civil engineers, irrespective of the subject. And then they train them for 6 months. Only after undergoing training for 6 months, they become relevant there. On day one, they are not operational. So what does it mean? Our institutions are preparing students for entry into employment and not for employment. This is the... So this should be dramatically changed. Then demand. This is the most important thing. Our domestic demand potential is very high. See, the sources of growth can be decomposed into internal demand, external demand, and import substitution. And if you look at in the decomposition exercise applicable to the newly industrializing countries or developed countries and the emerging economies, you will realize that external demand is the principal source of growth for Republic of Korea, Taiwan province of China, Singapore. External demand is the principal source of growth, accounting for more than 90% of growth across all sectors of manufacturing, from food processing to miscellaneous. Then you just reflect on the situation in India. What is the role of domestic demand? Domestic demand accounts for more than 90% of growth in all sectors. So domestic demand, the huge domestic market is our great strength. That's why every time, whenever there is a cyclical downturn of the global economy, Indian economy demonstrates a very high degree of resilience thanks to the domestic market potential. Except oil price, high oil price, dramatically increasing high oil price, no other external vulnerability hitherto affected the Indian economy. We demonstrated a very high degree of resilience. It is because of the huge domestic market. So let me go to the next slide. I will not look at the disaggregated details because of the time factor. Let me look at this. So these pillars are very critical, and strengthening these pillars will pave the way for achieving the so-called self-reliant India. So let me just reflect on the definitions of the so-called closed innovation and open innovation system. I will try to simplify. I will not read out. In actually, there should not be too many bullet points on the same slide. Participants will be totally confused. I will try to recap and summarize it. In the case of closed innovation, everything is internal knowledge and facilities and skill centric. Yes, research cell attached to a company, a research cell attached to an institution will do research based on what they have, what they know. They don't interact, network with the external sources. This is closed innovation. I think you are able to see this. This is all closed innovation. Then In the case of open innovation, we are networking with all sources available, very often freely available. External markets, external sources, you learn from everybody. You learn from your comparator, your competitor, your customer, your distributor, and everything. And also other research institutions. You network with it. It is called collective response to withstand competitive pressures for efficiency gain. You enhance efficiency in terms of productivity catch-up, then ecological compliance, and social inclusion. These are all the norms used for testing your efficiency. So you network with all sources, different sources, and you do your innovation in the open. Many are doing it and benefiting a lot. See, it is being, virtual world is going to rule us. Everything is going to be in the virtual world. And there is even an exaggerated imagination about what will eventually happen. Schools will disappear, colleges will disappear, firms will disappear, and everything will be in the virtual world. I know one guy sitting in Lagos. Lagos is a city which was actually the capital of Nigeria. Now they shifted it to Abuja. I had been to Lagos 17 times. People normally hesitate to go. The international reputation is upon landing there, something will happen to you. You may be very high rate of crime and high rate of corruption. And to make my lecture interesting, I will just narrate my own personal experience with you. Once I landed at the airport in Lagos, I went there and showed the passport to the officer at the immigration counter. He looked at it and he said, I am going to send you back. Then why, sir? He said, you got this visa in February. I said, no, I got it in July. See, he interpreted 7 with a stroke as 2. So it's not valid. I'm going to send you back. I was very polite, very composed, very calm. And I said, sir, I got it last week from your embassy in Kuala Lumpur. I'm teaching there at the University of Malaya. And I am a principal key consultant and the lead consultant for preparing the industrial input for your vision, a great vision for 2020 something at that time. So then he said, no. Then I said, I have a meeting with the Minister for Trade and Industry tomorrow in Abuja. I have to get my connecting flight immediately. I have to go to the domestic airport and fly. So you want me to fly or go back? Then he started ridiculing me. He said, oh, you have a meeting with the minister. Where is the evidence? Then fortunately, I had a copy of the letter. I showed it to him. Then he said, still, it's not possible. It's not possible to, because there is a mistake here. Then one lady, Indian lady standing behind me, said, don't worry. I gave him $10. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Then I said, why should I give him? He overheard that. Then said, sir, you have to take a decision. You want me to send, can I talk to your supervisor? And the reply was, gentlemen, my supervisor will be more expensive than me. This was the reply I got. So this is one example. And the crime, and you must have heard a lot about it. Living in that city, living in that awful city, which is known for very high rate of crime and corruption. One guy sitting in a small hut is manufacturing rubber-based non-automotive component for aircrafts, exporting it. Can you imagine? So if you have the capability to turn out a tiny part of a big product, complying with the international standards and quality control norms, you really participate in the global value chain. This is happening. This is really happening there. So this is the benefit of open innovation. Now we are going to see other dimensions of it. No, it's just a marginal reference to China. We may not like China now because what is going on at the border. Very often they see to it that the line of control is out of control. It is happening on daily basis. But one thing we cannot deny is the fact that China is one of the most innovative countries. In terms of industrialization, actually it bears no comparison with India, to be very honest. Their products are accounting for more than, even above the global average. So-called medium, high-tech and sophisticated products account for more than 80% of global manufacturing value added, and whatever they expect, not global manufacturing, their own manufacturing value added, and more than 80% of their exports in manufacturing. And it is because of the innovative mindedness. I had been to China several times. Each Chinese is imbued with that innovative mindedness. Once I was standing in front of the Great Wall of China along with my wife. One guy came and asked me to spell out my name. I said, it's a very long name which goes from Vienna to India. Vinanchiarachi, Jebamalai. Then he said, no, just to spell out my country names and city name. I started doing it. Vienna, India, Netherlands, Holland, something like that. Within 2 minutes he wrote, and within 5 minutes he brought a certificate. I was just looking at the Great Wall of China, and certificate said, this is to certify that Mr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi climbed the Great Wall of China. I got a diploma in climbing the Great Wall of China without climbing a single step. Who does not want a diploma without working for it? So I was very happy. He asked for $1, I gave him. Looking at my smiling face, he said, if you give me $5, he would engrave it on a metal plate. I gave him immediately $5. He engraved it, and that diploma for climbing the Great Wall of China without climbing a single step decorates my living room. See the innovate in the hotel. I am talking about small things. Small things. In the hotel, if you check in at any 5-star hotel, you will not see Chinese name. They know that it's very difficult for foreigners to pronounce Chinese names. Everybody's George, Matthew, Thomas, all Christian names are there. And if you go and complain about running water, there is no running hot water in the room, please go and talk to George. He's there. Something like that. I was astonished looking at a small thing. Then one small village, Kyoto village in China, is accounting for more than 78% of world button production. World button production. A small village, virtually no infrastructure, with primitive conditions, very isolated village. Then I wanted to learn about the real evolution of this small village as a global button producer. And today, Italy is organizing the button making technology exhibition, international button making technology exhibition in that small village. Then I wanted to learn about it. Then it seems two brothers originally imported buttons to be distributed to the 14 coastal the locations, coastal and the villages, which were locations which were originally identified as the growth poles, where they started producing labor-intensive operations, starting with the garments. Labor-intensive operations, they were making only garments. They were engaged in cut, make, trim operations. It's called CMT operations, cut, make, trim operations. And then they became very rich. The two brothers became very rich, fabulously rich. And they constructed huge villas. They were driving 5 Series Mercedes-Benz and BMW cars. And the family became an icon in the village. And then people went and asked them, what did you do? Then they said, we were just importing a pattern and distributing. Then they said, why can't we produce here? Okay, we will produce. You cooperate with me. With us, we will produce that. First, they started collecting all the broken buttons in China as raw material. All the broken buttons were collected as raw material. And to make the long story short, eventually the village emerged as the leading button making center in the world, accounting for more than 78% of global button production. And another village in Hanshu province is accounting for, again, more than 75% of world ties. One village, a small village is emerging like this. You can see the entrepreneurial spirit and the way they translated their thoughts into deeds. And then some examples are given. I used to say, when a new book is available with the innovative ideas in English, Chinese immediately translate their book into Chinese and distribute it as extensively as possible. Because they think people should know what are the innovative new ideas available for making money out of that. So they translate it and they distribute it very extensively. And then when they read, my feeling is when they read the phrase copyright, I think they misunderstood that. For them, when they read copyright in Chinese, it signified that copyright means right to copy. And they copied very systematically. That's why they shifted from imitation to innovation. It's all right to copy. This is what happened in China. Anyhow, in addition to all these things, they also created an enabling policy space and very effective business support services to make factories global. I can give you another example. When a foreign direct investor comes to China, they impose conditionalities on the investor. They ask the foreign direct investor to take professors working for the laboratories affiliated to universities as their staff members, as professional staff members. Having exposed these professors to new ways of doing business, they bring them back and convert the university laboratory into a global factory. These are all interventions, policy interventions. Prosperity is essentially a matter of policy choice. Our policy interventions should work as effective growth impulses. That's the only way out. You may have huge resources and you have fantastic domestic market. Unless you don't implement effective policy interventions, which serve as real growth impulses, we will not grow and transform. Okay, I think I have said enough about China. I would like to just erase the definitional ambiguities related to different types of innovation, because the topic is open innovation and value creation network. I have explained what is it all about in open innovation. I have given some examples also. The Nigerian example is the best example. And I would like to tell you the real definition of different types of innovations. National innovation. In an ideal national innovation system, new knowledge is generated by institutions, exploited by laboratories, and commercialized by dynamic firms. So there is a high degree of interactive framework between universities, laboratories, and institutions. Firms, universities, laboratories, and dynamic firms. And where does it exist? To the best of my knowledge, which is really limited, I think such nice, effective, ideal innovation system, national innovation system, exists in Singapore. Singapore has no resource, virtually nothing. When many countries are trying to convert their resource-based comparative advantages into competitiveness, global competitiveness, Singapore is able to enhance the global competitiveness of its products without resource-based comparative advantages, using human ingenuity as the infinite source of wealth creation, working very well there. Singapore is the best example. That's why on the scale of industrial performance, for 20 consecutive years, Singapore tops the list. A country with no resource is topping the list of countries on the scale of industrial performance. We do that. We rank countries on the first time when we did it in UNIDO. We raised our eyebrows when the result came. Singapore figured there are many parameters used, benchmark parameters used to rank countries. Then we went deep into that and we just justified. We gave compelling reasons and convincing arguments why Singapore is rated as number one on the scale of industrial performance, with no industrial the resource, but using human ingenuity as the infinite source of wealth creation. Then sectoral innovation system. Some sectors in India, we are doing extremely well in space research. We are one among top 5, and also in pharmaceuticals. I think we are doing extremely well. So selected sectors benefit from maybe policy support and the institutional support also, support services. Then incremental innovation. This is the normal innovation taking place across developing countries. This is very common innovation system. You don't invent anything, but you make use of what has been already invented. So there is no need for you to reinvent Boeing. Boeing has already been invented. So we need efficient pilots to operate Boeing. It's very simple. So this is what is happening through incremental innovation. Incremental innovation means you are able to use the imported technology and learn from that, and then you try to invent something on the basis of learning. This comes through effective transfer of technology. Effective transfer of technology takes place when you have the skills and capabilities and knowledge to first identify, acquire the right technology, assimilate that technology, adopt that technology, adapt it, then learn to do what? Learn to invent something that befits your country's specific context. Again, I go back to Tata Nano car. Of course, unfortunately, Nano car is not very commonly used. It's not very popular in India, but it is being sold across the border like hotcake. Many African countries are importing that. So this is the outcome of that. So this is incremental innovation. Then grassroots innovations. Grassroots innovations is very common now. There are so many innovative devices. Take the example of small hydropower. We used to think that we need a big waterfall, 6 feet or a 60 feet waterfall to generate hydropower. Now, so particularly Chinese have invented so many grassroots innovations, even from a 3 feet fall of water in the artificially created canal structure in the paddy field, you can generate electricity. This is grassroots innovation. You can place, you don't need the waterfall at all. You can place the turbine on the floor in the canal, on the ground, and it is being propelled by the way the water is flowing. Without even waterfall, you can generate hydropower. It's all going in that. There are so many grassroots innovations making a breakthrough in the quality of rural life in many countries. And then there is non-R&D route to innovation. That's another interesting thing. Non-R&D route. You don't have to do research at all. By trial and error, by doing something again and again, by incidental accident, you discover something and come out with something very innovative. This is called non-R&D routes. I hope someone will take the initiative to write a paper, scientific paper on non-R&D route to innovation. At least to prepare a survey of literature, global survey of literature on non-R&D route to innovation. Given the technological marvels, information is at your fingertips, and I would kindly request one of the students of Soviet University to opt for this. Okay, next one. 2 examples I want to illustrate. Illustrative case study of Singapore and Malaysia in fostering innovation. You can see on the y-axis, R&D, innovation, domestic capability building. R&D innovation means the extent and the effectiveness of R&D. Okay, and then domestic capability building is in terms of enhancing the functional literacy rate, which I already explained. On the y-axis, you have foreign direct investment. Okay, I think it is hiding. No, I have to go to the next previous one. I have to go to the previous. Yeah. Now, look at the ball, the bubble. The size of the bubble indicates the global competitiveness of products produced by OECD countries and newly industrializing countries. Mostly medium, high-tech, and sophisticated products. Okay. Now, they are able to maintain high level of global competitiveness, not using foreign direct investment. Actually, on the x-axis, it is foreign direct investment. Okay, and I will hide this. Okay. Now it's what is happening? It went up. I have to. I think there is a technical snack. Exit full screen. Maybe I go to the full screen now. Now kindly bear with me. I think I made a mistake.
Okay, you come back to the slide.
I can live with that. I can do this. Okay, no problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not
in a way,
with
I'm happy that I see my figure appearing twice. I'm very happy, extremely happy. I was a bit unhappy that I am not able to see my own figure, and I am very happy. Okay. Now, you can see before, so size of the ball indicates the size of global competitiveness of products produced by OECD and newly industrializing countries due to what? R&D, domestic capability building, not due to foreign direct investment. Okay. And then Malaysia and Singapore, before 1990, were maintaining high level of competitiveness in labor-intensive products, not in medium, high-tech and sophisticated products. Labor-intensive products using foreign direct investment, not R&D and domestic capability building. Foreign direct. Let us see what happened after. Sir, I am not able to move to something. I'm not able to move to the next slide. So what I will do, I will stop screening. I will just, if you don't mind, I will go back to my, yes, sir, I got it. I got it. Okay. Do you hear me? Am I audible? Hello? Hello?
You are audible, but slide is not.
No, I see. But I am able to see the PowerPoint presentation.
No, you have to share it. You know, you come out of your share button.
Yeah, I will do that, sir. 1 minute, hold on. So you are not able to see my. 1 minute. I will first open it. I have to first open my PowerPoint presentation for innovation. Sorry for the inconvenience.
No problem.
Then I get this, and then I share the screen. I go to application window. I think now I should be able to share it with you. Is it okay?
No, it is okay. It's coming. Okay, fine.
It's okay.
Now you move one after another. Okay.
Yeah, I will not play around and go around. I will just stick to this. Huh? Okay. Let us go to this one. Now you got the idea that the x-axis represents foreign direct investment. Let us see what happens after 1990. Singapore shifted. Singapore ball shifted to this one, and using R&D, innovation, and domestic capability building, and they achieved a very high degree of structural change within manufacturing. And Malaysia got stuck. Malaysia continues to be super exporter of semiconductors. That's all, nothing else. Maybe garments, little bit of our garments are already redeployed to Mauritius, and from Mauritius to African countries. It's okay. So you see, now if you take the example of Singapore, it was in 1989, I think 1989, yes. There was a research report by OECD countries saying that there is no positive correlation between money spent on R&D and innovation and industrial productivity. I hope I quote them properly. I think the report was by OECD, maybe some other organization. There may be a mistake, but there was a report saying that there is no positive correlation between money spent on R&D and innovation and industrial productivity. So people lost their faith on R&D and innovation. If it is not leading to productivity catch-up, why should we invest money on R&D? So it was in that year, Singapore decided to pump more money into innovation. Very interesting case. They decided to spend more money on R&D and innovation because they believed in that. And by 1997, 98, they captured the entire global market for their products. So domestic capability, at one point, I will make a reference to Singapore on policy intervention. I'm going to draw lessons from Singapore, Republic of Korea, and Taiwan province of China. Then at that point, I will elaborate it much better. Now let us go to the open innovation and value creation. Now you may ask me, you have explained everything, national innovation, sectoral innovation, incremental innovation, and given the examples of two countries, Malaysia and Singapore, how important it is to spend more money on R&D and innovation, and again strengthen the domestic capability building, enhancing the functional literacy rate. That's all, I hope, crystal clear. So what are the sources of resilience, or what are the sources of effective open innovation system and value creation network? There are 3 L's and 3 C's. 3 L's are linking, liberating, and learning, which I partly explained while citing the example of Tata company. And 3 C's are connect, comply, and compete. The first, you establish your link with the external sources of growth, dynamic and external source, new and dynamic sources of growth. Very often they are external. So you connect yourself with that, normally through foreign direct investment. Then you liberate your skills and capabilities and learn to invent something new. And with the Tata example, this is the best one. Then C are almost the same. Connect with the dynamic sources. Comply with the international standards and quality control norms in turning out products. That's critical. And if you are able to do that, you will compete very well in the international market. Now, what are the ground realities of innovation and the self-reliant India? See, unfortunately, we don't have even a survey national survey to assess the extent and the effectiveness of innovation system in India. We don't have a survey. It's a pity. When I say there may be few surveys here and there, product-based surveys, but we don't have a national level survey to systematically, scientifically, methodically assess the extent and the effectiveness of innovation system. I hope your university will take up that task. And how to assess that? There are 18 parameters I have coined. Look at this. This slide shows 7 parameters, and next one, the rest. 18 parameters you have to use to assess the extent and the effectiveness of innovation system. First one is the share of R&D expenditure in GDP. There are input factors and output factors. One of the input factors is how much money you put in. So spend share of R&D and expenditure in GDP. Our is less than 1%. In China, 4%. In terms of absolute volume of money, because ours is a 2.7 trillion economy, and theirs is hitting it, exceeded nearly 10. And then it means, in terms of absolute money, you see how much money is being spent on that. And then corporate spending, corporate research. This is very critical. What is the effectiveness of research, innovation, R&D, and research work done by the corporate sector? Forget about discovering something new, even in incremental innovation. Are they active? Our performance is, I'm sorry to say, very, very, very bad. Then patents registered and the extent of commercialization. Actually, this parameter can be divided into 2. Number of patents registered is an output factor. You first put money into that research and you invent something, and whatever you invented, how many patents are registered, internationally recognized patents registered. From the number of patents registered, you see the extent and effectiveness of innovation. Then, having registered the patent, to what extent the patents are commercialized, that is another one, another indicator. Technological balance of payments. In fact, importing capital good is a good indicator of innovation, because you learn a lot. It is there you do incremental innovation. So technological balance of payments is another indicator. Share of medium tech products in manufacturing value added. Share of medium tech products in manufactured export. Then share of high tech products in manufacturing value added. Then share of high tech products in manufactured exports. Share of sophisticated products, highly sophisticated products in manufacturing value added. Then share of the same product. These are all small benchmark indicators which will give you, they will look like a small ratio, a simple ratio, but that will speak volumes of the extent and effectiveness of our innovation system. A bibliometrics, the library, literature available on innovative research and innovation. Human resources imbued with the high functional literacy rate, I already explained. Innovation surveys of national innovation system, that is also an indicator. The first point is to ask, do you have a survey of innovation system? If you say no, so come on, you are not actually innovation minded. Innovation mindedness is definitely missing there. Then innovations mentioned in technical literature. Citations. You encourage the staff members of particularly engineering colleges to write articles to be published in journals recognized by the Institute for Scientific Information. This is called ISI journal articles. When organizations visit institutions to rank the institutions, they don't look at your infrastructure, utility services, and other facilities. The first question is how many ISI journal articles your staff members and students have written. And if you say that you have written so many articles, then your ranking will be boosted up. See, when I joined the University of Malaysia, believe me, after working for United Nations Industrial Development Organization for 30 years, producing nearly 400 technical reports, 210 country reports, co-published by the organization, some of them co-published by the organization with the London-based Economist Intelligence Unit. And I was in charge of, for a long time, I was in charge of the Industrial Development Report also. So many stalwarts, great professors working for Oxford University and leading universities worked with us. Even Nobel laureates worked with us. I thought this is my publication record. I was totally upset when the university told me, your publication record is very poor. Zero, almost zero. I was annoyed. I shouted at a friend who was instrumental for my job, Professor Raja Rasaya. I told him, what is this? You are really insulting me. Look at my publication record. They said these are not recognized as ISI journal articles. Publication record means your own scientific article written by you or in co-authorship with, they allow 3 to 4 others. It's even easy. Co-authorship with somebody, published in journal, recognized by the Institute for Scientific Information. See the difference. My 30 years of publication record was thrown out, completely thrown out. And they said, then they also imposed a conditionality. If you don't write at least one ISI journal article per year, your contract will not be extended. It's a conditionality imposed by the management. I was conditioned to write article to be published in journal article. Fortunately, during my stay, 3.5 years stay, I came out with 6 ISI journal articles in co-authorship with Professor Raja Rasaya and some others. So that is the thing. You see the difference here. Just because you write an article for the college magazine, you cannot say you have published something. No, that is not recognized. Internationally recognized articles are articles that are published by the journals duly recognized by the Institute for Scientific Information. I used to train staff members on preparing ISI journal articles, particularly engineering colleges. On another occasion, if Professor Moni desires, I will be most willing to do that. Okay. And then, innovation mentioned in technical literature, this is what I said. Whatever you write, if it is cited by somebody else, citation is also counted, number of citations. So you have written something. If you are frequently quoted, if you say, I have 15 citations during this year, 15 citations, that lends credence to your intellectual. It affixes the quality seal on your professionalism. I will put it like that. Then scientific papers published, that I already said. Then evidence of evidence of non-R&D route. During non-R&D route, whether something has been invented, the extent of disruptive technologies used in protective services. Now the world is today triggered by disruptive technologies. You know that. We started with steam power, mechanical power, then came electricity, and then computers, electronics, etc. Now everything is triggered by disruptive technologies. Disruptive technologies, I can just list them, from my memory power. I hope nothing will escape. Advanced digital protection system, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, then additive manufacturing, then big data management, cloud computing, 3D printer, and the electromobility, Internet of Things, Internet of Services, Internet of everything. You know that. These are all disruptive technologies. They are making deep inroad into whatever you do in life. So then the extent of self-reliance. Let us see to what extent we are self-reliant. Computer, software, services, 100%, I would say 110%. We are doing extremely well. But India's global leadership in software will soon disappear. because you must have heard about other countries emerging as Estonia. The country is called E-Estonia now. Everything is digitalized. Everything is. Even the embassy operations are digitalized. They don't have physical embassies across countries, but they run in the digital world. There is an embassy. You can apply for permanent residential status. Pay $140 US. You become a permanent citizen of a permanent resident of Estonia. And I heard when they announced it, within 3 weeks, 35,000 Indian software engineers got PR with Estonia. Estonia is emerging as a big power. China is emerging as a very big power in software. We got the impression that China will never do, because language is a big barrier. They are not exposed to conversational language in English, and it's even written language in English. It's a must that they can never compete. Now it's totally different. It's totally wrong. I was invited by Hansu University once. I went there with a grossly prejudiced mindset. So what are they going to listen? Okay, I'm going there. When I entered the campus, I was stunned to silence. The ambience was 7-star ambience in the auditorium. They were all seated. They were sitting there very politely. Got up. They respect people, very well. And I started. Normally, when I start your speech, I crack some jokes. I cracked the same joke I cracked today, and another joke also. And then no response. They were all sitting like statues there. Then I thought, what is happening? Whatever I'm saying, maybe it is going above their head. What shall I do? Anyhow, I delivered my 45-minute speech. When the floor was open to question and answer, believe me, I felt enormously incompetent to answer some of the questions, intellectually incompetent. I'm telling you the truth. The way they articulate, they spoke like Shakespeare and Milton. I was surprised. I asked the professor, I never expected this. They are very fluent in English. What is happening? They said from grade 1, kindergarten, primary 1, they start learning in English. So this is the only way to survive in an internationally competitive environment. They gave a topmost priority to that. They all spoke excellent English, and very, very embarrassing questions they asked. I was battling for words and ideas to be intellectually very. So we cannot underestimate that. China is another. Philippines is emerging as a big power now, software. So unless we change the ways of doing, actually, we opt for new models of business, even in software, even the supremacy, India's supremacy in providing computer software related services may be at stake. I will put it like that. Then computer hardware is a big zero. Everybody knows that. Everything what we employ is even in the point of sale, we don't have it here. We are using imported equipment. It's very surprising. Of course, our people are doing extremely well in other countries, and they are CEOs of big firms, and the software firms and hardware firms, and they are all doing very. Most of the Indians are doing very well. Many firms are being run by India. It is said that 4 Indians were primarily instrumental for Armstrong landing on the moon, but they are not doing it here. Why? What to do? This is the reality. So I will just tell you, when we come to policy dimensions, I will explain how to handle this one. They are inventing. See, you take the leading things, this Google, Facebook, YouTube, and what you name anything. Nothing was invented by Indians. We are using them. We are just using them. That's all. But of course, they are all operated by Indians for other firms across the border. That is a different thing. So it's a very bad state of affairs. But yesterday in the Indian Express, I read something very interesting. The printed circuit board assembly will generate $100 billion very soon. Very soon. I was very happy to read. Then I thought, okay, I should talk about this. I will make a reference to this. We will be self-reliant in that, but with the imported components. We are not making it here. It says, I will just read out the phrase what I read in the Indian Express yesterday. Printed circuit board assembly. We are assembling. Again, we are getting into the enclave type of assembly operations. So our cheap labor is being exploited. We are not. We are going to do it again with the imported one. But of course, we will move towards self-reliance. We will not import it intact. We will be making it here, but we are assembling it here. This is the thing. Then indigenous endeavor to climb the ladder of imported one. That is another one missing. there is a difference between technological efforts and technological capabilities. In fact, the technological efforts are the input factors, what I said, R&D, R&D, money spent on R&D. It's a technological effort. Capability is revealed by the way you get the patents registered. Your capability is recognized. Number of patents registered. Number of patents commercialized. This will come under capability. So, okay, next I'll go to the next one. Professor Moni, how many more minutes should I take? I will structure my presentation accordingly. You have to tell me how many more minutes I can take. Hello?
You can take another 30 minutes.
Excellent, excellent. You are very kind, very generous. I feel very comfortable. I hope the participants will bear with me. Okay, leveraging with the virtual world for self-reliance, key determinants. It is just, I already mentioned, enhanced the functional literacy rate, and then transformative shift from imitation to innovation, as Chinese did. You try to imitate and then move towards your own innovation. Effective institutional technical assistance and business support services. Here I want to spend some time. See, if you look at the role of regional development agencies in dynamic industrial locations, Wales Development Agency, or any dynamic industrial location, Penang, or you take any dynamic industrial location anywhere in developed country and also in developing countries. The regional development agencies are virtually babysitting enterprises, no exaggeration. Every day they are monitoring the performance, every day they are advising the enterprises in that location to thrive in an internationally competitive environment. They disseminate knowledge, they provide them with the excellent technical institutional technical assistance for trade capacity building, free of cost. It's a public good. Institutional technical assistance to firms is a public good. Then business support services are public goods. They don't have to pay for it. Common facility centers are public goods. Anybody can go and make use of whatever is available. You create a common facility center, equip the center with all so-called and the latest technologies, whatever I mentioned, and the disruptive technologies. You say in the center encompasses all disruptive technologies. You go and make use of that. Fortunately, now in the new education policy the government is doing, in the school level, at the school level, they call it Atal Tinkering Lab. So they are asking the schools to provide the government only with 1,500 square feet room, something like that. Then that room will be equipped with a robot and then a 3D printer and some elements of disruptive technologies. The students can be freely at ease to tinker with. They will be tinkering with those things. In that process, they may invent something. At the college level, they call it Atal Innovation Mission. That's even fantastic. Any college can get. They already selected 20 institutions of eminence. I think 10 crores they are giving for all that the college university has to give them is only, I think, 5,000 square feet size of room, and then that will be equipped with all disruptive technologies. And students are expected to go and play with those technologies, maybe under the direct supervision of a technically qualified person. And this is happening. This is already happening now. We should be happy about it. Yeah? So rendering institutional technical assistance and business support services is a must to rekindle innovative aspiration. I give you a striking example of imitation to innovation from. It happened in Togo. You can Google this. You will get this picture. You just type Google 3D printer. Google 3D printer. Just get into Google and say type 3D printer Togo or Togo 3D printer. You will get this guy's picture and this one. This guy made a 3D printer out of e-waste. Can you imagine? Out of e-waste. When he finished that product, he claimed that his 3D printer is capable of sending messages to Mars. He did not stop there. He said those messages are capable of making the material available there into even building materials and construct houses there. Amazing. I don't know. It is beyond comprehension. No, everybody thought it was a joke. He invented the European Space Research Institute, and he systematically demonstrated that He got a big award, I think 1.3 million euro or something like that. He's a very famous guy. He's making it and donating it to schools in his area, in the town, or in the country, actually. He's giving it to free of cost. And I think already 7 schools got his 3D printer. So this is from imitation. This is actually imitation. What he collected from the slum, e-waste, is actually something which he wanted to imitate. And using that, he invented a 3D printer. And to perform something which no other 3D printer did. This is an amazing. I can give you some other examples. Personal protection helmet. Please don't relate the normal helmet with this. This helmet is equipped with everything. It will tell him when the speed limit is above the when he is accelerating and the speed and accelerating the vehicle, and the speed limit when it exceeds the limit. When the speed is exceeding the speed limit, it will give the signal. And even so many other performance things will be performed by this one, the helmet. That's why personal protection. I can add personal protection dress also. This is very relevant for this one. And personal protection dress to be wear by the support staff of the hospitals and the doctors, and with the provision for a repeller. That means a COVID repeller. Like a mosquito repeller, there should be the COVID repeller. COVID repeller should be engraved into the dress. That's a new invention. $20 laptop invented by a student in VIT. You know that is from actually another example of from imitation to innovation. $20 he invented. Unfortunately, I think they got the patent registered. It's not commercialized. Very unfortunate. I just once checked with Professor Dr. Anand Samuel, Vice Chancellor of VIT. Sir, is it commercialized? He said, not yet. That is a very unfortunate thing. Electronic impulse attached to the cell phone signaling heartbeat irregularity. That is, I think it has been already invented by a student of an engineering college somewhere near Coimbatore, I was told. That guy has engraved that impulse there, it gives. And another guy, a student, invented something. That impulse is attached to the price of the food product, and that impulse will automatically change the price of the product as the product approaches the expiry date. On the day it expires, the product is sold out at incredibly low price, maybe incredibly low price, and the entire product stock will be sold out. This is another invention. Emission filter devices, so many. In Malaysia, someone invented something. It's like a box. He contacted me. He asked me whether I could serve as a distributor. I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm retired. Though I am not tired, I am not interested in business. I would like to be intellectually engaged. And it's like a box, and which dramatically reduces the emission. At the same time, gives more mileage also. He demonstrated it through the WhatsApp. Then converting carbon into black. Now you know that carbon is a black gold now. Carbon fiber is used for many, many things, and you are aware of it. Then let me just go to the next one. This slide, I should give credit to, I could acknowledge the contribution of Professor Moni. He sent it to me. I could not resist my temptation to use it, but don't get confused by too many information contained therein. I would just say that agriculture, Professor Moni is a world-renowned expert in digitalizing agriculture. I'm sure, I think the same university organized a series of lectures on this. So let me conveniently bypass. I am not an expert on that. Then Industry 4 and Industry 5. Industry 5 is just exactly artificial intelligence. It's going to be completely driven by artificial intelligence. This is about the history of digital India, Make in India, Skill India. That's okay. Let me just concentrate on here. Digital network for farmers, and what are the advantages there? The marginal scale farming increases. So I think Professor Moni will be able to elaborate it much better. Professor Moni, you kindly excuse me, I conveniently bypassed this. And I think the university organized many seminars on this. And but I would like to concentrate on this. Say one or two words about it. The courses they offer. Look at this. Bridging the development gaps in human resources in information and farming. They're offering M.Tech in agricultural informatics, B.Tech in agricultural informatics, and PG diploma courses. And this is going to be very, very important. I think what is happening now is what I see now. many highly qualified persons. I know one guy who got gold medal in IIT. Went to US and Philippines, worked everywhere, and eventually he abandoned everything, came back to his farm, his land, in a small village located between Tirunelveli and Koilpatti. And his great-great-grandfather purchased, I think, 600 acres of land. He has already converted 200 acres into a dynamic farm, biodynamic organic farm, exporting Murunga-based products, particularly Murunga powder, Murunga the seeds, Murunga oil, Murunga seeds, and the Murunga leaf, everything. And the global market is to the tune of $10 billion. It is growing at an average annual rate of, I would say, average annual rate of 18%. And the supply response is to the tune of only 30%. See the gap. Cuba has converted the entire country into a Murunga farm because of, so there are coveted product areas that can be developed by highly qualified people. Many are, see, look at the impact on social inclusion. So many people are empowered there. Now he is going to convert another friend who worked as a CEO of a leading sugar company, sugar technologist, Mr. Jay Chandra. He developed a 400 acres converted 400 acre sun-beaten track into a beautiful farm. And so many are getting into this. For that, knowledge is essential. I think these graduates will emerge as the dynamic entrepreneurs in the sphere of agriculture. Okay, let me go to open source digital technology fostering sectoral development. Now, having said all these things, so we talked about technological marvels and digital world and this and that. It's all very interesting. Okay, but you cannot afford to ignore the overall development priorities. What are our development priorities? First, we have to convert our comparative advantages into competitiveness. Then we have to convert commodities into branded products. And then focus on development of products which make indelibly impact on poverty reduction. I think there's some words are missing here. It escaped my attention. It is a mistake. The development of which, yes, focus on products, the development of which makes indelibly impact on poverty reduction. This is very important. See, if you develop Murunga farm and get into the production processing of Murunga for further processing, Murunga oil, Murunga seeds, Murunga and powder, like this, and then you get many people empowered in that. It makes a big impact on poverty reduction in rural areas. So that's another priority. Then our overall objective is to achieve economically efficient, ecologically friendly, and socially desirable pattern of development. So fast-growing, job-creating, green industry. These are all overall priorities which are very dominant in our development policy initiatives, in developmental efforts. So you cannot afford. So you have to see to what extent the so-called open share digital technology and open innovation would contribute to that. So we have to strike a balance. We cannot afford to ignore that. Agriculture, I would say, use digital technology to create an inventory of modern industrial applications of our products, whatever is available. First, at least you create an inventory and use the digital technology which can constantly update that. It's possible. Technological marvels are capable of doing everything. And then having created the inventory for each product, for each disaggregated product, indicate our distance to the frontiers of best practice in processing, design, and marketing. For example, I am producing a product. I know I know through the device, digital technological device, I know the frontiers of best practice in processing, designing, and marketing that product. And I also know my level. At least make the stakeholders realize their distance to the frontiers of best practice. Having done that, then unveil viable avenues of reducing the distance to the frontiers of best practice using the digital technology. This is the way forward. Industry, I would just say in the virtual world, change the business model. Otherwise, you will not survive. That's very clear. Unfortunately, it is eclipsed by this one. But what is contained therein is that change the business model. You have to go for new business models. In an internationally competitive environment, it is not a question of the survival of the biggest or smallest, but the fastest. Only those who keep pace with the rapidly changing facets of doing business will survive. Otherwise, they will fall apart. Okay, let me go to the next. The way ahead. The way ahead is to foster incremental innovation through enhanced adaptive capabilities. Then effective technical assistance, I have mentioned, reduce cost of production and cost of doing business. Kindly permit me to say, cost of production is high when there are infrastructural bottlenecks. Cost of business will be very high when there is high level of corruption. This is what I have seen across countries. Africa is not able to add value to their products. Each commodity is a tragedy. Coffee tragedy, cocoa tragedy, palm oil tragedy, tea tragedy. Everything is a tragedy because they just export it in raw form. They are not adding value to earn huge margin in the international market. Everything is exported. Seaweed, they just collect it. They don't even wash it using the sea water. Give it to the Chinese agents. They take it, add value, and that is used for sushi and distributed in five-star hotels and earn huge margin. Everything is, it's all cost to see. Once the Kenyan president made a statement, in order for a Kenyan farmer to buy 1 kilo of roasted coffee, imported coffee from the supermarket, he has to produce 100 kilos of raw coffee. Is it not a tragedy? They are not able to climb the ladder of value addition because of high cost of production and high cost of business. High cost of doing business. I used to say that reduce the cost of doing business is easy. But when there is high level of corruption, you cannot reduce the cost of doing business. When there are infrastructural bottlenecks, you cannot reduce the cost of production. So you have to reduce the cost of production and cost of doing business. Once I said in a meeting in one of the countries, I said, in some countries, corruption is under the table. In some countries, it is over the table. In some countries, the table itself is corrupt. The table is corrupt. This is if that level of corruption prevails, you cannot reduce that. Then give one-time grant. This is another one. If you identify any innovative entrepreneur, dynamic entrepreneur, entrepreneurial aspirant who is capable of actually establishing a factory which may become a global factory, and there should be committees to review that. If someone comes to you with a proposal, they say, I'm going to process cassava with Thai technology. I identified a joint venture partner from Thailand. Thailand is doing extremely well in processing cassava and exporting it to Europe. 27 billion baht they are earning. And we grow cassava everywhere here. So if he is coming out with that idea, and if the committee is totally convinced, give him a seed money to go and visit that guy, to go to Thailand, give him the air ticket, to go and visit him, negotiate with him, bring him here. And then once he reaches that stage, another grant to start the enterprise, one-time grant for him to emerge as a dynamic entrepreneur, not loan. Then establish dynamic growth posts. This is another one. Instead of trying to do everything everywhere across the country, identify growth posts, locations, and those locations will generate positive spillovers. So when the neighbor grows, you tend to grow. That is natural. In my village, very often my relatives ask for money, and they said, give me some money. It's not simple money, it's small money, big money to buy a mechanized boat. If you ask them, why do you want to own a mechanized boat? I expect them to tell me that, okay, they will go for deep fishing and they will use the money for processing the fish and export it. That's this type of thing I expect. Or at least construct a house and get the girls married, something like that. The only answer I get is, when I ask them, why do you want to own a mechanized boat? The answer is, because my neighbor has one. This is the answer, very often. So when the neighbors grow, you tend to grow. When you enable some locations to emerge as dynamic growth posts, dynamic locations, creating excellent infrastructural facilities, giving them with the skills, everything, all the ingredients, all the key determinants for growth, as it happening in other developing and the work on the dynamic industrial locations across countries. Now that those locations will create spillover effects, and the country will benefit. And then the point is, be part of the great reset. Here, I will use one more slide, then I wind up. Please spend some time with me. Bear with me for 5 more minutes. It appears the great reset is happening. We are resetting the button. And that resetting process is triggered by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is going to take over everything. They have coined a new phrase called technological singularity. I don't know whether you heard of that. Has anyone heard of a technological singularity? Artificial intelligence will surpass the capability of human brain, and artificial intelligence will be a single technology performing everything. That's called technological singularity, leading to enhanced productivity growth. And it's very frightening. Because of artificial intelligence, if all the cars become driverless cars, 1.6 billion drivers will lose job. How to accommodate them? It seems 85% of manufacturing value added will be triggered by artificial intelligence based on behavioral data. They are using another phrase, behavioral data. This is very interesting. It appears human beings are now hackable social animals. You are hacked. The moment you spend 10 minutes on the screen, your screen time is actually hacked. And they know what you do about your personal. They know about your personality by just following you on the screen. They know everything. They know better than you what you know about yourself. The behavioral data and the entire pattern of the marketing is based on the information contained in the behavioral database. Machine psychology they are using now. Now we thought for a long time we thought artificial intelligence, it would get instructions and react. No, it is able to think now. It's called machine psychology. It's called surveillance capitalism. These are all the phrases coming out, very frightening. Eventually, they all affect our job. That's why I said evolution of job, future of job. This is very big concern now. Let me go to the history. During the 18th century industrial revolution, it was all the job creation. Job was great. People were employed. People were very happy. We started with steam power, and then electricity, then the computers and electronics. Now artificial intelligence, and we say that it will overpower brain. And according to me, this is a personal statement. Don't take it very serious. A man will climb the ladder of technological marvels and eventually reach Almighty God, and he will try to touch him. On that day, Almighty God will push him down. This is kindly take it very in the light vein. Don't take it very serious. It's beyond. We are not able. We are frightened. What will the impact of job? But I listened to a lecture by somebody. He made optimistic claims about it, because every time it happened, every time when the when the technology was introduced in Kerala, when the computers were introduced, the entire Kerala was against the introduction of computers, including the ruling party. The communists were ruling at that time. The government also organized agitations against the introduction of computers, telling everybody that introduction of computers mean all the typists will lose their job. They interpreted computer as a typewriter, nothing but typewriter. So just because the typist would lose the job, they were against the introduction of computer. And you see the millions of computer-related jobs created here. It is from that point of view, he makes optimistic claims about it. Optimistic claims about it. Here, you see, more energy, more water, more time, more money, and you don't have to work. It seems in the near future, by 2030, we will reach a stage, and you don't have to work. You will sit at home, and the technology will enable you to do something, and that will be a source of income for you. You don't have to be employed. There is no need for job. So it is going in the other extreme. So it's worth reflecting on it. I kindly request Professor Moni to organize a special seminar on the implications of the so-called the technological singularity of the artificial intelligence, and bring real experts. I am not the expert. I am not an expert on artificial intelligence. I am an economist, so I should be very economical on the technical perceptions of all these things. Kindly bring great resource persons who are well versed with all these things, like Alan Turing. No, what is his name? Alan Turing. Turing. And Alan Turing, who I think talked about artificial intelligence in 1951. In 1959, he organized the big first conference on artificial. There he predicted all these things. And there is another person, head of artificial intelligence in Google, Ray Kurzweil. I am not able to pronounce his name. I wrote his name now. Ray Kurzweil. People of that caliber, please bring them and ask them to address your staff and students and disseminate knowledge as extensively as possible on this one. So again, I would like to wind up with an optimistic note. As I said, you should always make optimistic claims about everything. In the past, we recovered from everything. Great Depression of 1930s, oil shock, everything, and we started doing much better than ever before. And this will happen in spite of technological marvels. I think technological marvels will rekindle new and dynamic sources of growth, and that will create take us to an era of eternal prosperity. With this, I thank you very much for the great opportunity. I am available for question and answers. I think I can now minimize my PowerPoint presentation so that I am able to see myself. Yes, Professor Moni, I am through.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi, for your very innovative and professorial address to the students and faculty members and the participants from both from India and abroad. Today on a very important topic on seizing opportunities in open innovation and value creation network in the digital world for self-reliant economy. In this 1 hour 30 minutes, more than 1 hour 30 minutes talk has rekindled various aspirations which you felt that we should undertake. You started with, vision with action and action with vision. And you said that, all facing challenges, and we should, through the challenges which we face, we should seize the opportunities from them. And you gave and you brought your international experience, which you have seen, you have participated to the audience of today's international webinar. And throughout the lecture, I have seen your background. That is Sabarmati Ashram, where our father of nation lived. And you also, in the last but one slide, you also put it, which even though you have not mentioned, that as Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you wish to see in the world.
Yeah.
And today, with your background, which you put it behind your photograph, and also with the last but one slide before thanking all the participants, you very aptly said it, that what is needed and what we should do in the country through this, your very innovative address, that you said it, the way forward, way ahead. You've given about, 6 innovative, actionable plan, faster, incremental innovation, promote effective institutional technical assistance and business support services, reduce cost of production and cost of doing business, give one-time grant and not loan to knowledge and technology-based dynamic entrepreneurs, establish dynamic, dynamism for their startups and growth poles, establish dynamic further startups and growth poles, and you be the part of the great reset. And finally, you said it that, the whole world is moving towards Industry 4.0, that is that Industry 4.0 plus artificial intelligence. You also said it that, this is, I should, asked me to have another seminar on the technological singularity. Sir, I promise you, and the university will conduct and organize another seminar, and with your total participation and other experts which are both national and international, to summarize some of the points which you have talked about it, to the benefits of the audience. One is that the address, the talk which given by Dr. Jebamalai Vinanchiarachi will be available in the YouTube, and the URL link will be published through the website, and all the participants who can see his entire talk in another 5 minutes from now. Second is that, all the slides which he talked about can generate research attitude, research furtherance, research attraction for all the engineering students, economic students, and various other disciplines, management students, to undertake. And we'll also publish his PowerPoints to the audience, to the whoever wants to have it. I will give my email address at the last after this, and you please write to me, and we will send his PowerPoints and for further interaction with him. And he also talked very nicely that he brought a lot of examples of international level, and he also given the history of developed nations, how the transformation has taken place in manufacturing and related services, and how labor-intensive countries have moved into R&D based and innovation based economy. And he has also given that various policy aspects, and he strongly said it that don't stop with only announcing tax holidays. You have to do a lot of other things that. And he also talked about that importance of functional literacy. That is not only the literacy, but the functional literacy is more important. And a very important thing which he talked about is that open innovation and closed innovation, and the factors doing the development of Chinese digitalized economy. He brought it very effectively, and how the button production technology has emerged from a village, and by collecting the broken buttons. These are all some of the examples which we should take note of it. And he wanted that he gave an example that how university laboratories should be converted into innovative labs, and what type of policy intervention is needed for growth impulses. He talked about type of innovation. He characterized national innovation, sectoral innovation, where when he talked about sectoral innovation, he talked about how India is in the forefront with respect to space research and pharmaceutical research and industry. And when he talked about incremental innovation, he talked about effective transfer of technology, and and then grassroots level innovations and non-R&D routes innovation, where he also recommended and he also suggested that why can't the Soviet Institute of Engineering and Technology can undertake a survey on non-R&D routes to innovation, with respect to India is concerned. That also need to have a global survey on non-R&D routes to innovation. It is a very important thing that. And he also given in the illustrative case study with respect to Singapore and Malaysia before 1990 and after 1990. He also mentioned some report which talked about that there is no positive correlation on with respect to money spent on R&D and innovation. Then with respect to open innovations and value creations, he talked about 3 L's and 3 C's: linkage, leverage, and learning, connectivity, compliance, and competence. And he talked about that in order to have that self-reliant Indian economy, he talked about 18 parameters, very important parameters which he talked about it. And he also very nicely said it, that how the emergence of Estonia, and he said it, even though we have computer service, software services in 100% self-reliant, but that is not enough. We may lose these, this level, but you see Estonia, which has even changed the name, it has attained the brand name as, Estonia, and how China is progressive. And he also said it that with respect to computer hardware, it is zero. India missed out the third industrial revolution, and we have to have we have to climb the ladder based on imported technology is missing. The indigenous endeavor to climb the ladder based on imported technology is missing, and we have to learn a lot from Singapore, with respect to technological efforts and capabilities, and leveraging with this virtual world for self-reliance. He also talked about key determinants, enhanced functional literacy. He talked about very effectively transformative shift from the imitation to innovation, effective institutional technical assistance and business support services. And this is a very important thing, that, and shrinking example of limitation to innovations. He talked about an example of Toco 3D printer, and another example of personal protection helmet, and how this can lead to COVID, rebellion, dresses, and regular, related dresses, and so on and so forth. How the the VAT institution is even worked on $20 laptop, and still they have to go for patenting that commercially available, and electronic impulses attached to cell phone from an engineering college student in Coimbatore, and he also talked about how to convert carbon into black gold, black gold. And there are a lot of very, he really brought out his more than 35 years of his international expertise and experience to the audience today through his very innovative lecture. And finally, he talked about open source digital technology for fostering sectoral development. And here he mentioned about 4 priorities, and two sectoral priorities: agriculture and industry. And he was very kind enough to mention that the way in which the Soviet Institute of Engineering and Technology is introduced the various courses related to agriculture informatics in the area of MTech, BTech, and BG diploma and diploma for bridging the development gaps with respect to informatization of agriculture sector, where he mentioned how the IT experts worked in developed countries have come to India and now gone into agricultural development in the rural areas. So the way forward, he said it: faster incremental innovation, promote effective institutional technical assistance and business support services, reduce cost of production and cost of doing business, give one-time grant and not loan to knowledge and technology-based dynamic entrepreneurs, establish dynamic further startups and growth poles, and be part of the great research. So, sir, it is, we thank you from our bottom of our heart that you are very innovative and very meaningful address on the topic seizing opportunities and open innovation. He said it very nicely that where the opportunities are lying, you convert challenges into opportunities through open innovations, through value creation networks in the digitalized world for self-reliant economy. On behalf of the Chancellor of the University, Kanwar Shekhar Vijendra, and on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Amar Garg, and on behalf of the faculty members and the students of the university, and on my behalf, we thank you for your very encouraging and innovative address to the audience through this international webinar series on open source digital technology towards self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And I assure you that your talk today has generated a lot of interest among the the economic students from economic discipline, students from engineering discipline, students from computer science area, to further get into research mode, on the topic which you have talked about, seizing opportunities in open innovation and value creation network in the digital world for self-reliant India economy.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And
I have to come in. I have to come in for 1 minute. For the students of economics, I would kindly request them to analyze the policy intervention, international comparison of policy intervention in Republic of Korea, Taiwan province of China, and in Singapore. In Singapore, the sequencing mattered. First, they did not allow students with a high level of aptitude to join any subject other than science and technology related subjects. Okay, they encouraged them. And having created a large pool of technocrats and technical engineers, they did not allow them to join civil service. They encouraged them to emerge as dynamic entrepreneurs, for which they gave grant. In Taiwan province of China, they created research consortium between public institutions and corporate sector. That was the secret behind it. And in Korea, they came out with very good intensive to attract tacit knowledge. Our tacit knowledge is doing wonders across the border. How to bring them? Nobody will come here due to patriotism. We cannot ask them to come and save motherland. They will not come. Korea, what it did was, they gave very high level, higher than what they were earning. Korean technocrats, Korean doctors, Korean engineers earning in North America and Europe more than what they were earning. Excellent facilities for them to stay. Preferential admission in professional colleges for their children. Excellent medical facilities. The incentive system was so tempting, the Korean technocrats could not resist their temptation to come back. Unless you do that, you cannot convert your brain drain into grain. So it is a matter of policy choice, policy interventions. So economic students can analyze that. Engineering students, what I say, there's a befogged state of affairs. There's a lot of fear about the loss of job and this and that. Actually, what the latest technologies, digital technology will do, will translate Mahatma Gandhi's dream into action. That's why I purposely put Mahatma Gandhi's ashramam. He argued the case for shifting from mass production to production by the mass. Production by the mass is going to take place because of digital technology and technological marvels in general and artificial intelligence in particular. They should go in that direction.
No, it's very nice, sir, for your intervention. That's why I started with the background Sabarmati Ashram and what the father of nation Mahatma they said it, and you also explained very nicely that this is the time has come in the digital world. It is a production by masses, not for production of mass production, and this will bring in a very good ecosystem. That's why we talked about that. 2 weeks back, the former secretary to Government of India, Mr. Satyanarayana, the Secretary IT, talked about ecosystem architecture for digital transformation. Today, you also talked it that I spelled it out 6 words: opportunities, how to seize it in an through open innovation, value creation network, digital world, and self-reliant economy. And this will open a new chapter, in the educational system, in the research system, and then this, functional literacy. I would like to also take 2 minutes that in 2014 and 15, the Soviet Institute of Engineering Technology has organized an international, seminar on bridging the development gaps in human resources for Digital India, Make in India, Stand Up India, and Startup India. And also in the brochure, I will send it to you, we put it that how to convert university lab as a mini AT&T lab.
Good.
Mini AT&T lab. It is in 2014 and 2015. International seminar organized by the university, and I was the organizing secretary of that conference. So it's we would like to thank you, and also would like to invite you to be closely associated with the Soviet Institute of Engineering Technology, and we will be very happy to have your participation in whatever capacity you feel that it is necessary and required. This is the only university, and by the vision of the management and the Chancellor Kanwar Shekhar Vijayendra, he invited me to establish 4 centers of excellence: Center for Agriculture Informatics and E-Governance Research Studies, to reskill all agriculture science graduates and engineering graduates in IT and agriculture through MTech in Agriculture Informatics, BTech in Agriculture Informatics, PG diploma and diploma. Next is that how to generate agribusiness management graduates for taking into agribusiness opportunities in India, India becoming the hotspot with respect to Asian agribusiness and African agribusiness. How to generate as many number of people. So Center for Agribusiness and Disaster Management Studies, and then to involve all the engineering graduates and from non-engineering graduates into as a good entrepreneur, with respect to informatics through e-governance standards. So the third center of excellence on Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Applications. There is no development R&D and related one, development solutions and applications, and then Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Applications. This is the only private university based in Meerut having these 4 centers of excellence to drive technology to the rural youth, to make them as skilled and entrepreneurship developed. So thank you very much for your very effective address today, and I'm very happy to request you to once again to get associated with the university. With this, we come to the closing of this webinar, and thank you very much. Thanks for your participation, and greeting from Soviet University. For more research inquiries, please contact Professor Moni Madaswamy, Professor Emeritus and Chairman, CIDSA and CITSA, and the former Director General, National Informatics Center, Government of India, New Delhi. My email ID, moni@sovietuniversity.ac.in. Soviet Institute of Engineering Technology, Deemed to be University. Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Application, and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application. Thank you very much. We leave the studio.
Okay, so thank you.